I'm hoping to major in communications, but I'm not quite sure yet. For the essay, for the scholarship contest, the topic was Women Spies of the Confederacy, what was their motivation? And I chose to highlight one very famous woman spy. Here we go. For years, tension between the northern and southern states had been brewing. Americans who had ties to both places were forced to pick sides when war finally did break out. Members from every family worked to benefit the war effort. Men went off to fight and women did their part from home. During the American Civil War, many female spies provided information to the Confederacy. These daughters of Dixie worked tirelessly to do their part in supporting the war effort. One infamous woman spy, in particular, Rose O'Neal Greenhouse, made a name for herself working in secret to provide information to the Confederate troops. Women spies like Rose worked to protect their families, the land they love, and to show their national pride in doing their part to support the war effort for independence. Raised and married in Washington, D.C., Rose had ties to both the North and the South. Rose was married to Robert Greenhouse, a fine gentleman of good morals and social standing. Robert and Rose lived happily in D.C., making frequent social calls and keeping up with all current events. The couple later moved to San Francisco after Robert's career almost ended prematurely. Shortly after the family relocated, Robert fell 6 feet and sustained a fatal injury to his leg. His wound became infected and he died 6 weeks later as a result of his wound. Rose and her 4 daughters moved back east to D.C. Rose was able to once again host lavish dinner parties where she welcomed guests from both sides. A widow who was having to support one of her 4 children, Rose began to spend some of her time by regularly entertaining suitors. When war finally broke out, her life dramatically changed. Being the woman of Dixie that she was at heart, Rose supported the South but maintained connections with both sides. These ties allowed her to serve as a Confederate spy. As a very spirited young woman, Rose was eager to help her homeland in any way that she could. A former U.S. Army captain taught her basic cryptography so that she could send messages from D.C. to Northern Virginia. This was the only skill she was ever taught and was otherwise untrained. Due to her lack of instruction, Rose was at times careless with her work as a spy. Rose kept copies of all the messages she had sent and failed to destroy most of the information she received. Yankee investigators began to question her loyalty to the Union. As a result of this, the Secretary of War sent a spy to follow her in order to obtain evidence against her suspicious behavior. In August of 1961, Rose was arrested by Union troops just before she had planned to flee to Virginia. The troops searched Rose's house to find evidence and found many documents that were to be used against her later. She was under house arrest and was watched around the clock. Being the courageous and persevering woman she was, Rose put up a fight by making things difficult for her guards. She frequently complained about the conditions she found herself in and made things difficult for both herself and the troops surrounding her house. Although under house arrest, Rose still managed to receive important information which she attempted to pass on to the Confederacy. While some documents made it to the South, unfortunately, most of them did not make it past the walls of her house and were later used as evidence against her. Eventually, Rose and her daughter, Little Rose, were moved to a Union prison where she continued to complain. She was now confined in a vermin-filled building with Negro prisoners, which she was most unhappy about. After spending 8 months in prison, Rose was brought in front of a council to determine what should be done with her. She gave them no satisfaction and attempted to squeeze her way out of the situation. Even though she could easily be accused of treason, Lincoln was reluctant to give her a trial because he was uneasy about the many possible outcomes. Eventually, Rose was permanently deported to the South. So why did she choose to be a Confederate spy? As a single woman, she was not expected to do much for the war. Rose O'Neal Greenhouse, like many other women, served as a spy so she could do her part in supporting the war effort, demonstrate her national pride, and protect her homeland. Due to her efforts, many gave her credit for the Confederate victory at Bentonville. She is now highly regarded as a heroine of the Confederacy. Thank you.